My body is human, but my soul is too.
Energy is evolving. Energy as consciousness.
I started hearing like wings. It was a very weird sound.
I do think that there are things that we don't know.
These human-looking creatures erase our short-term memory.
And the species of humanity is a representation of consciousness in this universe.
This Earth is actually multidimensional. We only see one dimension of this planet.
It's supernatural, metaphysical, paranormally out of this world. You have tuned into the #1 source for forward thinking. It's the Veranormal Show with your host, Vera Martinez.
Hey, welcome, my lovely humans and aliens out there, starseeds, angels, and spirits of this dimension and beyond. Thank you for joining us on another paranormal night for October 3rd. This is the Veranormal Show, and we are broadcasting live from the hills of Austin, Texas, bringing to you the best weird, strange, and paranormal topics in this dimensional solar system. The Veranormal Show can be downloaded on iTunes or just check out the show's archive at blogtalkradio.com/Veranormal. And now you can take us on the go with Apple's new iPhone app, Podcast. Also, if you want to give us a call, write our number down, 818-532-9739. Again, call us on tonight's show. Our number is 818-532-9739. And tonight, I'm flying solo, everyone. Little Ninja and Marfa Man were not able to be here tonight. Little Ninja still out of town, and Marfa Man had a softball game or something like that, which is kind of lame, but you know Marfa Man. It's okay. I still love him. And tonight, I'm excited because tonight's title is Cosmic Consciousness. And to cover that topic, I'm going to speak to author Ramon Almonte, who is going to share what inspired him to write his book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. But first, how about we take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Veranormal Show. Call us live at 818-532-9739. Go online and check out the website at veranormal.com.
Welcome back. If you just logged in, we are the Veranormal Show. You want to check us out, please go to www.veranormal.com. You can also find me on Facebook under Vera J. Martinez and on Twitter at Veranormal. So go ahead and send us your questions, ghost stories, or book suggestions. Our guest for tonight was born and raised in New York City, but is now living in Tokyo, Japan. His earliest memories of OBEs, aka out-of-body experiences, started when he was only 3 years old. And by the age of 11, he was already meditating. Then by the age of only 16, he was faced with making a choice between a dark path or a path of light. Everyone, please welcome my guest, Ramon Almonte. How are you, Ramon?
How are you doing? I'm doing great. Welcome your hat.
Anyway.
Show.
We were just talking about this a few minutes before we went live about, he was saying how brave I was to be doing a live show. because you're also a host, right? Your radio show is the 100th Monkey Radio.
Yes.
So, yes, I mean, especially me with an accent, I mess up all the time. All the time.
We all
but
have
who cares? It's so much fun, and I like it when people call. So tonight, if anyone is listening, go ahead and give us a call if you have any questions throughout the show. But anyway, welcome tonight. I'm so glad you're able to make it. And just for everyone out there, you are right now in Tokyo.
Actually, I'm about 45 minutes outside of Tokyo.
Okay, so what time is it there?
It's 11:05 a.m. So not too early.
Wow. So good morning. It's 9:05 p.m. here in Texas Central Time.
Yeah, it's really for myself. Whenever I do these shows with my partner Tom, it's always very weird because sometimes you'll have like he's in Washington, I'm in Japan, and we'll have like a guest, for example, in South Africa or in Europe, and it's really weird because just converging the time zones together is hard enough.
It's amazing. I mean, that's just, I am so happy. I mean, we had a caller from England a couple of times, but I never had a guest from another completely way far away country. I never forgot what I was going to say. I forgot. There you go again. Another bleep from Vera. You see, right now, Marfa Man will be saving me. He's playing softball.
Well, that's good.
I remember. I was about to say, it feels like I'm talking to somebody in the future because you're already there. It's October 4th.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me tell you your future. It's sunny.
Is that weird for that place?
No, not at all.
No?
Actually, it's pretty warm. The winters here are pretty warm. It's not so cold. And like for example, where I grew up in New York, it's already pretty cold, and here it's still warm. I'm still wearing short sleeve shirts.
Oh wow! Well, here in Austin, it's beautiful. October is my favorite month of the year, and it's just perfect weather, like perfect. But it only lasts 1 month, unfortunately. Anyway, first of all, now that we're talking about Tokyo, what are you doing in Tokyo? What made you move there from New York?
I woke up one day and I was in Tokyo. No. Me and my wife were living in New York, and we were getting ready to do her papers for her visa and stuff. And when we got all the information and we found out how much it was, she rarely ever gets like completely pissed off, but she was completely pissed off because she just found it ridiculous. And she said, "You want to move to Japan?" And I've been wanting. I was having like this urge to get out of New York, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So we moved here, and the funny thing is that we got everything completely done, for including airplane tickets, new furniture, the apartment, half the price that it would have cost us to do her visa.
Oh wow! So it was kind
amazing,
of
right?
TV, yes.
Yeah, it's like it's. I was feeling stagnant there.
Mhm.
So, it's good to be somewhere else for a while.
So there was no any kind of premonition dream or sign or spiritual calling.
Well, that part, yes. The spiritual calling part was for a long time. I think since 1994, 95, I had this urge to come to Japan, and during that time, it was always I was waiting for something to happen to bring me here, and it never did. So around 2002, I had a friend who's very psychic, and she said, if you don't go now, you'll never go. So during that time, this is way before I met my wife, I packed my bags, had $800 in my pocket, brought a ticket, and moved to Tokyo for 3 months. And luckily, there was a girl I had met at a club that became a friend of mine, and she was like, "Oh, you can stay here at my house," and she rented me a room, and I got a job washing dishes because I didn't have enough money to get me by in 3 months, but I got by, so that was a huge learning lesson. And then I came back in 2005, and at that time I was dating somebody else, and we kind of I came over so we can spend some time together to see if we wanted to take it to the next level. Without getting into the drama, it didn't work out, and I ended up coming back, and I was like, okay, I give up. I don't want to, the whole time I wanted to live in Japan, I was like, okay, I give up. I'm done.
Wow.
I tried as much as possible, and I'm tired of trying. So I kind of gave up and was like, okay, I'm not, going to try anymore. And then I meet my wife, and we're dating for I think 2 years, and then that's when she came up with the idea, and I was like, oh really? Okay. But before then, we never even talked about do you think
moving?
We should ever live in Japan?
Really? So she brought it up, and then so it seems like that place just kept calling you. You have to be there for some reason.
Yeah, it felt like before I came here, it kind of felt like a calling rejection kind of thing. But
I see.
Now I know that it just wasn't the time. I wasn't mentally mature enough to be here.
And it's interesting to talk about that, because I think everyone once in a while feels that calling, like that place. You have to be at this place. It's like a calling. You don't even know why. And I'm always amazed. A lot of people like you are brave, and they're like, okay, I'll just buy my ticket and let's go. Let's do it. Yet another amount of people out there, they're just too afraid to ever embark on that journey.
That's a great point you bring up, because there's a dear friend of mine, and he said to me, oh, I wish I could be like you. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, because you can just take off and go somewhere else. And I was like, and at that time I was single, and our status were like pretty much the same. We both have jobs. I said, we both have jobs that we hate. We're both the same age. We're both single. Neither one of us have kids. I don't see the difference.
So
I don't know
he
why
had
you
equal opportunity to travel, but it was something else inside of him, maybe insecurities, fears, and for you it was so natural just to do it. And it's interesting to me because I personally love to travel. Since I was a little girl, I've always saw myself moving around, going to places, and more than anything, I was fascinated with meeting different cultures, like people with different cultures, different ideas, and I just wanted to experience that and just fill myself with all that knowledge of just world, And I haven't done all of it, but I've done quite a few, enough so that I can talk about it, I guess.
I would say for anybody, just freak it and go. You'll be shocked how much you learn from yourself. It's good to get out of the environment where you've been all your life, because it can make you kind of stagnant. And not everybody needs it. But if you're having a calling, then obviously you need it.
Right.
If you don't have a calling for it, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's different. But I'll give you an example. I teach English here in Japan, and I have this student. Well, she's not my student anymore, but I had a student, and I was teaching her for several months, And she was telling me about, she wants to live in America. She wants to go be fully immersed in the English language so she can, learn better.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you should just go, and then it was already on her mind, but I kind of felt like I was lighting the match. The gas was already there, and I was lighting the match, and I was like, you should just go, do you have money saved up? She was like, yeah. I said, do you have enough money to pay for an English school? She goes, yeah, then go. And she's like, oh, my husband won't want to do it. And then I was like, okay, I can't speak on that because that's a whole different ball game there. And I guess she went back home and thought about this over a couple of weeks, and she told her husband, I want to go study English in America. And he said, no, if you do that, I want a divorce. And she was like, okay,
Whoa.
if you're gonna be that dramatic, she didn't say it like this, I'm paraphrasing, but if you're gonna be like that, then she was like, okay, fine. And he was like, no. And I really give her so much kudos for being so brave. And her family was so angry at her. Her in-laws and her family were angry at her because you don't abandon your husband.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
But she went, and they didn't get a divorce. And, according to her, everything is still perfect between them.
And it probably is. And that's it. She just wanted to have that experience.
Yeah. So that was really, really cool. So
that's amazing. So listen to your heart, people out there. Don't be afraid. Don't make up excuses. You feeling it inside is because you need it, like Ramon said.
Yeah.
So,
the only thing to really be afraid of is yourself.
And that's right. I've been there. I've been there many times. But that's how I learned not to be there again. So, okay. So let's talk about your book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. What inspired you to write this book?
You know how one thing leads into another. So I went to Japan in 2002. Well, I came here to Japan in 2002. And while I was there, I was learning so much about myself that I was like, I had this urge then to write a book. So when I went back home to New York, I started writing one book, and then I lost the information, and the computer crashed, and I started writing another one, and I misplaced the files, and then I tried one more time, and the computer crashed, and then I said, okay, let's be smart about this. Obviously, you did 3 stupid things in a row, and it seems like on this planet, the only animal that does 3 stupid things in a row is the human being.
The human?
Yeah. But anyway, so I started writing the book on paper and on the computer, and it was keeping different files on it just in case, And that was the inspiration to write the book. And the name just came out there. I just got the idea. It just popped up. It wasn't like, this inspired me or that inspired me. It just, the idea came up. And, the funny thing is that one thing, again, leads into another. When you follow what you really want to do, leads into other things. And I'll give you the example. I started looking at science. I was looking for, out there theories, and I didn't feel anything that really kind of moved me. And so I started looking. A friend of mine showed me like this UFO footage, and it was fake. It was the one in Haiti, and it was completely fake. It's obvious that it was fake. But that fake one led me into looking into the real ones. And then I started finding out about shows that were playing this kind of stuff. And I was like, really? There's shows out there? How come I never knew about them? I had no idea. And this is back 2007. Yeah, I want to say like 2007. And then I found this one show. It was Coast to Coast, and they had this guest on called James Gilliland. And he has a ranch called East City Ranch. And there, according to him, there were UFOs every night flying over his property. and he has it open so anybody can go and visit. And Vera, if you ever want to see a UFO, you should definitely go there.
Are you serious? I've heard about it. So you've been there?
Yeah. I've been there, and so I was listening to the Coast to Coast show. Then I listened to his show, and I listened to other shows, Dr. Brooks Agnes show, and I went there. And I went there the first year, and it just blew my mind out. That year, me and my wife decided to travel to different places. So we went to San Francisco first, then Hawaii, and then she was going back home to New York, and I was going to this conference at East Eddy Ranch in Washington, Trout Lake, Washington. So as I had to take literally a plane, a train, a bus, and a taxi to get there.
Oh, that's nice.
And growing up in New York, I never got a license. So I took all these vehicles to get there. And I get there, and the first night, I meet these guys from, one was from San Diego, and the other one was from Seattle, these two Mexican-American guys. And one of them had like this really strong laser, and he pointed at this thing flying over, and it looks just like a satellite. I've seen satellites before, nothing special. Flying over, and then he points at it, and the amazing part was it flashed back the same color that he was flashing, which was green, and it was white. Yeah, and he flashed it 2 times, and it flashed back green 2 times. And I was like, I didn't know satellites could do that. And somebody like on the far right was like, they can't. And I was blown away. That's like, as soon as it got dark, this is what happens my first night. And there was just, flybys. But anyway, the second year I went there, I meet my partner, Tom, and we started kicking off, and, we're talking, and we're getting along great. And I've been always having these nightmares of, doing a show. I'm doing a show, like I'm either producing it or on the show, and then the commercial is up, and I hit the wrong button, or I cut the guests off. I kept having these nightmares over and over, and I was like, okay, obviously it's time for me to do a show. And I called Tom up. I actually sent him an email and was like, how do you do this? How do you do this? And he was like, that's funny you say that, because I was looking to do an internet show myself. And I said, let's do it together. And do you know that in 6 weeks we had, no, I'm sorry, not 6 weeks. In 2 to 3 weeks we had our first 6 guests all lined up and ready to go. And it was the easiest thing I ever done. And so my point in bringing all these different stories is that because I went to Japan, I started writing the book. Because I started writing the book, I do a radio show. And because I'm doing the radio show, I'm on other people's radio shows. So it's like when you follow what you really want to do, you don't know where it's going to take you. And it's so important to really follow. Now, if you're following what you really want to do, you'll know. But if you feel that, like, stagnation, you feel like life sucks kind of feeling, it's because you're going against the grain.
Wow, that's actually, you're speaking to my heart now. Yeah, sometimes I've hit that place where you feel like everything's just stilled and you feel stuck. You're like, okay, what's going on? And you can figure it out. And those points are when you hit that mud and you feel stuck, I think those are probably the most important things, because if you don't hit those, then you don't know what's missing. You don't know that, okay, maybe I have to look for something new or change something that allows you to grow. Now, I'm not saying go out and get stuck in the mud on purpose. No, but you're right. It's kind of like, I don't know how to compare it with, but they're guidance tools. When you hit that on the right and move to the left, you hit that on the left, move to the right, and just kind of keeps you stayed on course.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's so easy to get off course. It's really, really easy to get off course because the way we're brought up as a human society, we're not really brought up to follow your heart. You don't do those things. Like, if you think about our grandmother's times, and it's like so many of the people from that generation and even the generations before us, they were always taught the opposite. You put aside what you want to do to take care of what you have to take care of.
Yeah.
And of course I gotta give them thanks because they did a huge sacrifice just to raise us and do all these different things. But at the same time, it's like, you have to really follow, because that's when, people fall into depression. People need other things to escape, and it's because you're not following what you want to do.
And then that unhappiness leads to disease, then low vibration. You just become a mess, basically. Just for something simple like following your heart, like let go of that fear.
You become some kind of something. No.
You said I was checking out your website. You said you have it as a kid, but it's bitten the hell out of you. You said that phrase. You have this passion. You have this curiosity. You have this fearless attitude when you're a child.
Yeah, it's really I've been in the education system here in Japan for 2 years, and I see exactly how they do it. Because when they're doing it to you, you don't really notice because you're a young kid. But when they're doing it to other people, it's easier to see. It's kind of like the abusive relationship. When you're in it, you don't really notice, but when your friend's in it, you notice. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing. And I see, and the teachers who are doing it don't even know they're doing it because it was beating the hell out of them. So it's such a vicious cycle. And the first thing they go after is like your imagination. When you have a crazy-ass experience, what's the first thing your parents tell you? That's just a dream. Oh, those things don't happen.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's obvious because you're doing this kind of show. I mean, it's obvious that, for those of us who do this kind of show, we're not doing it for the money because,
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's a real job.
It's definitely, I can talk for a whole hour just telling how I got here as well. But, we'll save that for another time. But it's true. It's true. One small thing will lead to the other, and it just keeps going and going and going. As long as you don't lose that, just don't give up and you keep moving and relax. Just go with the flow, basically.
Yeah. So let me reverse the tables for a second here. I'll become the interviewer, and you become the interviewee. So have you ever yourself, like, you said you've been doing this for almost a year and a half. Have you ever felt like it's time to write or move on to the next level?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually
I kind of felt that.
Struggling. Are you psychic or what? Wait a minute.
Apúrate, Eva.
By the way, you speak Spanish too, right? We were joking earlier saying we're going to do a Spanglish show, which will be hilarious.
Yeah, I just said to her, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, I just say, hurry up, girl.
Yeah. I know. I am, I'm the kind of person, I want to change, but at the same time, it's like so part of me. I have these, dreams and goals and visions, and I wait, and then I just do it. It's almost like I work better under pressure. I bet you that everybody will be ascending, and I'll be running. I'm coming, and then finally make it. Like, I swear, this is how I am. 99% of the times I make it. But, it's like, come on, Vera, for once, in your life, do things the way that most people do it, maybe?
Well, you know what? I can't even get on you for that because it took me 6 years to write this book. It's not like I sat down and wrote it. Like I know some people who sit down in 9 months.
I know, right? They channel the entire
book.
information in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you did that in 9 months? I did half the book in 6 years.
I know. I don't believe in time. I don't like time. If you were to ask me what about this earth I do not like, I don't like time. It feels like it limits humans.
Well, a lot of people say that it's an illusion, and
I believe that. I don't like it. I don't like the weird.
At least in the astral plane and in the dream state, that's when you really realize that. I mean, even in the physical one, but in the dream state, you can really realize that you'll have this dream of months and even years passing, and you wake up and it's only been 2-3 hours you've been asleep.
I know, I've been there. But before we start talking about astral projection, because I do want to ask you some questions, real quick, what is your book about? We haven't talked about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, it's basically everything that we've been talking up to this point, where this character is having these crazy dreams, and he just starts following his what I call following his bliss. And that whole idea of following your bliss comes from Joseph Campbell. I don't know if you're familiar with that, The Power of Myth. Anybody out there, you need to get this book. If you're listening to the show, get that book. It's amazing.
What's it called?
The Power of Myth, Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
He passed away back in the late 80s, I think it was. And they did there's a PBS special that it was like a 6-hour special. And he talks all about following your bliss. And he also anyway, I'm getting off topic. But so the character is all about that, and he starts following his dreams and talking to his friends about it, and they start building this apparatus, and he goes off to a different planet and meets this alien, which is really a tree. And I don't want to give off the book too much, but these trees are really from Earth, but they kind of left to let the humanity grow on their own, and they moved to different planets. But again, it's he's having all this external experience, but the truth of it, it's all about him, what he's going through internally. Because like most of us, we got that point in our moment in life where it's the lowest of the low, and you think there's no way up. And there's always a way up, but you don't really. It's hard to see when you're going through that. So the character himself is going through that, and this constant internal war that we all go through.
Yeah.
So it's really about I have all this nice external things, but it's really about the inner person and what's happening to them.
That sounds pretty in-depth. So something had to inspire you. Was it yourself? Is it maybe
there's definitely
there's
definitely a lot of me. Unfortunately, I haven't gone to a different planet, at least consciously. But it's definitely, it has a lot to do with myself and what my aspirations. It's like, in a way, I was, what do they call that? Living vicariously through the character. Going to places I wanted to go to, that I would love to go to, and meeting beings I would like to meet, and even going through some of the experience. There's definitely, for me, it was when I was 16 that was like my lowest of the low. And that's when, things really changed, because I won't go into depth what happened, but there was me and a couple other friends, and we all went different ways. Now, neither one of the ways is wrong, and neither one of the ways is right. They're all what that person needed at the time. for me personally, I chose what's best for me. It's kind of like the saying is, it's if you don't listen, life throws a pebble at you. If you don't listen again, it smacks you across the face. And if you don't listen, it hits you with what Tom likes, my partner likes to call the proverbial 2x4, right across the head. Yeah. So it's we really have to pay attention to what's going on around us. And in the book, I don't give you a direct, like, okay, this is the way you do it, because there is no such thing as A, B, C when it comes to our life. It's you figure things out, and you look for the lessons, and you see the little symbolisms all around you. And sometimes for some of us it takes a little longer, and that's okay.
So what you're saying is, even if there's a lot of people that live with regret, and because they, according to them, they've made mistakes in their past, you don't see that as something bad or necessarily a mistake, but rather a lesson.
The worst, I only see one mistake. And of course, there's some really terrible mistakes you can make, but the worst mistake you can make is giving up. When you give up, that's the worst mistake, because there you stop yourself from any kind of growth that you could have made, and you become stagnant. And I've seen that in people, and that's the worst mistake you can make. We all make mistakes, and some of us, make terrible mistakes that will haunt you. But when you start learning from that, okay, how can I become better from this? Because when you have those, what a lot of people like to call now, those quantum leaps in your life, where you see this, because people always think that growth happens in an angle, a slow angle like a graph, and that's not true. The way most of us get better, if you think about anything you've ever practiced and become better at, it's like a straight line, and then you go up a little bit, then another straight line, and you go up a little bit, and then you get to a point where you just shoot off up. And that's the same way with our own personal life. It's like when you think about where you were at and the growth you made, it was one day you had this epiphany, and you go, holy beep, and then you just take off, and you become a whole different person.
Wow. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. I think for me the most important thing, like, if you get anything out of this book, is that you are the master of your life. There is no one, controlling. There's nobody up there with a long beard and in a chair, pointing at you. I saw you. You messed up. You judge yourself, and you can be whatever you want to be, and the growth you make is all up to you and where you take yourself. And so the most important thing you can take from the book is self-empowerment. It's all about self-empowerment. We're in the conditions we're in because we've given our power away. If you think about it, if you think about an abusive relationship, which is what humanity is in. Humanity is an abusive relationship. You give your power away.
But it's
baby,
so tricky. Yeah, it's so tricky sometimes, because I've tried to help people like that, and it's like an impossible mission. Like, if they don't want to get help, or they're not
you can't
do nothing.
You can't help those people, because if you think about when you were in a situation like that, no one could have helped you. And you need to figure that out for yourself.
On your own,
you can do for those people is be there and listen, because that's very important. Even if they're going over the same rhetoric, go over the same thing over and over again, all you can do is listen. but you can't, like that famous saying, you can't force a horse to drink water. And, so you just have to listen. And because what happens, too, is that when you're trying to help those people, you're actually sometimes could be doing more damage to them. And I know some people out there are saying, like, how is that possible? And think about this. It becomes, what's the word? It becomes like a joint, like they become addicted to you.
Yes.
In the sense.
Yes.
And you're
they
doing,
need that attention, and they become, they call also vampire energy suckers or energy vampires, and they become that way without even knowing, because they're just feeding off your energy and your attention, and they're not going anywhere, and they're draining you completely. So it's one of those. Just be careful of people out there with those type of situations, I guess.
Yeah, you got to kind of step back. It's like, especially when people are, when it comes to like things like drug addictions, abusive relationships, you can let them know that you're here to support them when they're ready.
Right. That's
very, very important, because when they hit that bottom, they're really going to need that cushion. But you can't drag them, kicking and screaming to go. Life will do that.
Life will do that. Exactly. Life will do that. You don't have to. You are so right.
Yeah. Yes.
Life will kick you and slap you and get your attention for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think many people out there listening will agree with us. So, I want to talk about your astral projection. You mentioned that you started having OBEs when you were 3. You remember?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I don't remember much from that time. And I do remember that. And it's, even to this day, it's been 30-something years since then, but I question it. I still question it. And basically, I was looking at, I remember coming into awareness of seeing my body in the crib, and I was all I cared about was grabbing the milk, and I didn't care about anything else. I saw the body, but I just wanted to grab the milk, and that's the only part I remember. I don't remember waking up from it or anything like that. So, I've heard a lot of people say that happens a lot to kids, but when you get older, you don't remember those things. So luckily, I remember that part, which I think for me has been a good foundation.
I agree with you, because I've had experiences like that when I was young, very young, and I had no idea what they were. And they can be quite scary, because I had a lot of what they call sleep paralysis. And they were usually often after, having these weird experiences out there and traveling, and like I had all kinds of experiences. They were nothing but wonderful. Like, these are the memories I remember. Like, just like you, I don't remember much about certain time periods, but I remember those the time where I will be gone somewhere in a dream state and feeling so happy, like I have never felt in my entire life till now. This blissfulness, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like you're there and you see us, with other people, other characters. I don't know what to call them. And I had those experiences when I was young. But then it scared me, the Hispanic culture, sleep paralysis. They call it like, the witch. It's like, like we're gonna choke you, or what they call it, the death. What they call muerto se te subió, like the death person went on top of you, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I don't want those things happening to me. That's horrible. So I've tried to block it as much as I could.
Well, we can go into that, because like you, I've had a lot of sleep paralysis, and I've had in Spanish we call it muertos, but in English they call it like succubus, and it's like these entities that feed on your energy. And the secret is the secret to get over that, because I know a lot of people experience that, and the secret is lose the fear.
Yeah.
That easy, because they feed off the fear, and once the fear is gone, they lose their energy. They I'll tell you one experience I had. I was sometimes for me I can't tell the difference between a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience. For me, like an out-of-body experience, I feel like this tingling all over my body, kind of like if you think about when you sleep on your arm and it falls asleep, it feels just like that, for the exception of the pain. There's no pain, but you feel that electric kind of thing all over your body. And I was like laying in this room. I don't know where I was, but it kind of looked like where I grew up, but it was different. Like there was these huge windows, and I like roll off the bed, and I see this huge black shadow coming towards me, and I knew what it was, and right away I just like stood up to it, and when it came to me, it became so small, and I like grabbed it. And then I heard my guy say, like, don't do that. And I was like, why not? And then, I'm still not sure why she said that. But I learned then that if you lose the fear and you just stand up to it, it dissolves, because it has no power over you. It goes back to the same thing. When you give your power away, they become stronger. The quote unquote bully becomes stronger because you're giving your power away. So that's the same thing in those other realms. If you give your power away, if you go out there scared, they feed off that. It's so easy to feed off that. So you lose your power and they gain the power. But when you stand up, I've had other situations where I've had those entities like jump on me, and I was like, you're not allowed to do this. I'm not allowing you to do this. Get off. And they get off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. If you start there fighting and freaking out, they love it. Fight more, and they feed off this energy.
And I don't know
and
what
the
they
more
are.
You fight it,
yeah, I don't know if they're just low vibrational entities, spirits, or just what are you tapping into. I have no idea. Some people said it's just your body. You get caught in between the dream state and your body's not quite connected to, your brain completely. I don't know. But what are the chances of that happening almost every time when you're having OBEs or astral projection? So it's a whole package. It's not just randomly.
So that's one version of it. And then there's also, where it's exactly the way the scientists say it. But to take it a little further is, your body, I would say your astral self or your spirit self, it's in between states. It's right between that state. And what I would do there is I just relax, realize what's happening, because not every time you have that, there's some entity attacking you. That's just, for me, it was some of the times, even though I had it a lot. But at that point, I would relax and say, oh, okay, I see what's happening, and then just roll over, and I can roll out of the body. When it comes to astral projection, unlike my partner Tom, where he can focus and he can come out consciously,
wow.
I lose conscious a little bit, and then I either wake up in that state, or I'll wake up at a what some people call the diving point, where that for some people they have, like for me it's the apartment where I grew up, and I always end up back there, and I'm surrounded. I have these windows, and do you remember the gates that they started putting to protect the kids from falling out of the window?
Yeah.
So these gates would be there, and that's like my protection. So that's my safe spot. And then from there, once I get my mind together, I can go out. So if you find yourself in that state, just relax, no, there's nothing to fear because you can't die.
Right.
Especially in that state, there's nothing, that can kill you. So you just rolled over.
Yeah,
or some people can just easily get up.
Yeah, I wish I would have known this when I was young, because I had these experiences a lot when I was younger. And now I'm an adult, I'm kind of curious. I'm like, oh, I wonder why I don't have it much anymore. And now I know more about it. I feel like I will be able to deal with that better. And I read also that you can focus on your breathing, because your body obviously never stops breathing. You're still breathing. So once you put your awareness into your breath, it connects you right back to your body, and then you can wake up.
Yeah, that's the breathing is, I would say, probably the most important thing you can do, either in waking state or in sleeping state or in any state, to concentrate on the breath, because it really relaxes you and keeps you focused. And if you think you have to stay focused here in those realms, for me, it takes even more focus.
Yeah, and there's different experiences. Not all of them are quite the same. For me, one that was very, very interesting, I just became extremely tired. And I was already older. I was so tired. Then I just fell asleep, and as soon as I hit the bed, I was out, and my body started shaking. Like, I was shaking really weird. Like, I don't even know how to quite explain it, but just vibrating, I guess, like shaking really, really fast. And then out of nowhere, I felt like something, just like a vacuum, just took me out, like, boom. And I was just like being sucked into this tunnel. And I'm just going. And I was fearless. I can feel the speed. I can feel the kind of the falling sensation. And I was fearless. I was just like, oh, okay. And I was totally aware of what's happening. And out of nowhere, I'm in this area, this plaza, I don't know how to call it. And everything was really colorful, like super, super vibrant. And this voice, I can never see who was talking. This voice kept telling me, oh, like, go ahead and play, and, you can walk on the wall. And I was like, no. He was like, yeah, you can walk on the wall. And then I started walking on the wall. And it was just like this bizarre, I don't know if it was like a astral projection or just
so cool.
wacky dream,
That to me sounds like your guide, and that was a training place.
I guess, I don't know, it was amazing though. I don't remember being afraid. I remember being like a child, just having fun in this area, whatever it was, like a playground, and this voice is telling me what to do. And then check this out. I wake up, it seemed like forever. I wake up, and it had been only like 3 minutes.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, like it was just a few minutes, and I woke up and was like, this was weird. I've never forget that.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to the point you were talking about time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can wait. I can control it. I can just demand it. I can just be like, okay, I want to have one of those dreams again. It just doesn't work that way. It seems to be randomly.
Oh, I'm laughing so hard. You want to hear one crazy experience I had?
Yeah.
And it was recent. This was like 2 weeks at the most. And I was doing these meditation exercise, and I'm trying to always stay in the habit of doing some qigong or qigong in the nighttime before I go to sleep.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that, and then after a couple of days, I had this out-of-body experience. And again, I come to my awareness. I'm in the room again. And and what I'll do is I'll put my hands on the window, and I go through the window. And as I go out through the window, I said to myself, show me what I need to see. And, I'm like floating and going over this, like, at first it was like this park in New York, and then all of a sudden it was somewhere else. I have no idea. It was like lots of clouds and things. I have no idea where it was. And all I'm doing is listening. And sometimes, it rarely happens, but sometimes my guides would take me somewhere and just so I can listen to something. And I'm listening to my family, and they're all like arguing and you know, fighting back and forth. And this energy, I can feel this energy and stuff. And then all of a sudden I float back to this bed that in that state was my bed, but it wasn't, you know, my real bed in the physical state. And then I'm still aware and I'm still in the same state. And then all of a sudden I float again and start floating around. And I start going around in a circle counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
And the ceiling, I can see these geometric shapes that connect to these star systems. No idea where these star systems were, or nothing looked familiar, and I was just like, whoa. And then this voice started talking to me, and this voice said to me, oh, we come from a 12-planet star system, and he wanted to do like a kind of interview to find out what, you know, the ideas of what the planet thinks, of what's going to happen. And, you know, it kind of felt, at one point, it kind of felt like it was just a more one-sided conversation, like he was just telling me.
Yeah.
And I don't remember everything he was talking about because I had to concentrate so much just to hear what he was saying.
Right.
And that's a big problem I have whenever I do hear any telepathic anything. It's kind of like garble or not clear enough. So I'm listening to him, and, you know, she was asking me about the whole sovereignty thing, you know, if I had mastered it or something. I was like, no, it's a work in progress. You know, I have no idea really what I'm doing still. And then it started to rain outside. And as soon as I became aware that it was raining really hard outside, the telepathic connection disconnected, and I woke up. And I just woke up, and I went to the window and I looked outside, and I was like, okay, no UFOs, nothing there. And I was like, what the hell was that? Was that did I have a real dialogue with, you know, or was it all in my mind?
Right.
So I've been questioning that one, you know. And it's good to question. It's not good to doubt.
Yeah, a lot of people have these experiences, and then they just brush them off. Oh, that was just weird, and then they never remembered, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
The experience is gone.
Yeah, so I just keep that experience in the back of my mind, and you know, put it in the what the kind of moment.
Yes, and I mean, I'm telling you, I've always been curious. I've always wanted to know more about all those experiences I had as a child. And then recently, in the last few years, I guess you have the power of disconnecting from that, of blocking that or connecting to that again, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's, you know, that what that reminds me of by you saying that, it reminds me of this, there was a picture on Facebook. You know, they always put up these little pictures and stuff, and there was a picture of a horse tied to a plastic chair.
Oh, yeah.
And what that reminds me is that you think that the cuffs or the bonds around you are so strong and so tight that you don't realize that you can take them off any time because they're not even strong. It's kind of like that whole idea when you tie a baby elephant to a rope, that when that baby elephant gets older, it can be such a weak rope, but the thing is that they've been tied to it that they give it power.
Yeah.
So they don't even try to, so that's, it's the same thing. So we've been conditioned with this, you know, piece, what's like something very thin, like, you know, you've been tied down with something so thin that's easy to break. God, I'm forgetting. How do you say hilo in English?
Thread, like a very fine thread.
Like a very fine thread. So, and you don't realize that you can break that. So the reason why I brought that up, because it's the same thing, you know, when we're young, our minds are so open, there's so much, and we get all this, you know, knowledge and things. And then when we get older, it's just we're closed up. But we don't realize that it's so easy to open. And the hardest part about it is that it's easy.
You're right, yes. And it is easy, but then how can you, well, when you're conditioned that way for years and years, how do you break loose from that? Do you have to be aware of it? Do you have somebody
when you write your book about it, then I'll answer the question.
Now you know, like challenges. Now you're challenging me. I'm sort of writing tonight.
Yeah, you know. If we don't try to make each other better, then
yeah, you're right. I just added a few more minutes because we're running out of time, and I still have a couple more questions. On your video on your website, the 100th Monkey Radio.com, you talked about what made you start wondering about the spiritual path, and what made you believe on the faith aspect of it, because you have really no religion, am I correct? You really don't have anything, that stereotyped about your ideas or beliefs. But you talked about the Christmas lights. You were working and there were some Christmas lights, and then something happened that you couldn't explain.
Yeah, you're tying two different things together, but when it comes to my religious, I don't have any religious beliefs. When it comes to my spiritual belief, I've gotten to the point where it's about knowing and not believing. So the things that I follow true to myself is the knowings. So what do I mean by the knowings is that, okay, so now I tie into the experience that you're talking about. So I was working this job with a friend of mine, and he's very, very religious, extremely religious. And so it was raining. We were doing the Christmas lights. It's cold. It sucks. And it's 2:00 in the morning, and we've been working since 7:00 in the morning. We're both exhausted. We're wet, cold, and we're working with electricity. Great. So I just there's this thing that it's called matrix energetic, and it's basically you take your fingers and you kind of tie 2 points together, and I was doing it in the sky, like trying to tie these 2 points together. And the idea is that you put your mind in that in-between state where you're like dreaming and awake, but you do it in an aware state. And it's almost like what they call the, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, it's like a quantum state, for lack of a better word. And I was trying to stop the rain, but it didn't work. And before that happened, we had 4 Christmas pots, and we were working them, and one of them was busted out. So we didn't have any more Christmas pots. We have to finish this for this client that we're doing this in front of their house, and we couldn't set up all 4. So, after I did this, I went back over and I looked at the pot, and I was like, "Oh, you found another pot?" And he was like, "No, I didn't find another pot." And then he looked at it, he was like, "Wait." And so we looked at all 4 pots, and he's like, "Nah, you messing with me, right?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not messing with you. I thought you changed the pot." He's like, "No, I didn't touch it." "Well, I didn't touch it, so how did it get fixed?" And neither one of us had an idea how it got fixed. Now, what a coincidence, right?
Right.
So,
and you said until this day he's still a skeptic about that experience.
Yeah, and all I just kept beating him on the head with was I kept saying to him, "Well, you always talk about the power of your boy." And when I say your boy, I'm talking about God or Jesus. And I was like, "You always talk about the power of your boy, and here it goes, boom, right in your face. So, Well,
why don't you give him credit? Just give credit to whatever it is that you believe in, and yet he didn't.
Yeah.
He still doubted that.
Exactly.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And I call him Doubting Thomas to mess with him, but it was, with the lesson, because we both got completely different lessons from that. And for me, it was the power that we have as humans.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that, I can go ahead and do that right now, because it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And how it works, I have no idea still. So it's always a working in progress.
Well, I believe in faith, and you know what I'd say about faith. That faith can move mountains, so of course it can fix a pot. Why not? And if you're putting all your energy and intention on something positive and something to happen, maybe the rain didn't stop, but the pot was fixed.
Well, about.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, think about this. When the one thing I realize is that whenever something like that happens in my life, or for example, I wanted a distiller, and someone the next week said, "Hey, I heard you talking about distilled water. Do you want my distiller?" Things like that happen. If you think about your mindset, it's like you wanted something. It was almost like a knowing, but that's it. You kind of let it go.
Yeah.
So what I found is it's just knowing, because how much time we have?
Go ahead. I'll let you know.
Okay. So I'll try to make it really quickly. When you have this knowing and understanding, the biggest mistake that I feel that we can make is, and there's many different versions of the truth, and what I mean by that is that it's the more you find out, then your awareness grows, then there's more to learn, because your awareness just grew, so you can see more things. And the biggest mistake is when you find a truth that's it, and you shut everything else around it off, because you're closing yourself off from growth. And once you find something, so for example, look at it as a piece of a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You brought a puzzle of a window, so you made the puzzle, it's done. That's the truth right there. That is a window. But wait, you have more puzzle pieces. It's a building. Well, that's also a truth. You just became more aware of the building. Wait, it's a block. It's a city. It's a it's a country. It's a planet. So it goes on and on and on. And that that's something, when it comes to my spiritual belief, that's my mindset, that I can't sit here and stick to one thing, because as soon as I think I know that, it morphs into something different, and the expansion happens, and then again it happens. So what I think I know, come figure out that that's just a small piece in what I think I know, and then it morphs. Or I was looking at it the wrong perspective, so I thought it was a snake, but it really was the trunk of an elephant,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
yeah. That's a very good point. I like that. I like that analogy of the puzzle, because you're right. It can always keep expanding more and more and more. The knowing, the awareness.
Yeah, you can expand as much as you want to expand, or as much as you're ready to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we say, "Oh, I'm ready to expand." That's not true.
Right. I had experiences like yours, like the tree and the pot. Sorry, and many experiences throughout my life, and I've always remembered them, because to me they were magic moments. I love them, each one of them, and I love to believe there's something out there bigger than us, or maybe part of us. Maybe we are the same. I don't know. If there's such thing as bigger or better, because that's very ego talk. But he could be. I know there's something else out there. I know it, and I have experienced it, and I just hope everybody else out there opens their heart to experience it, because it's amazing. When it happens, don't you just get like, oh, like, wow, this is so cool. And it's amazing. And that's just a little example. I'm sure you have many more, and I have a ton of them that I probably don't have time to talk about right now.
I mean, it's and I'm sure so does the audience. The one thing I just want to leave everybody with is, before we go, is just I want to talk a little bit about intuition and the importance of it. And I just want to give everybody has different exercises to build up your intuition, but whatever is happening on our planet, whatever you believe is happening, I think intuition is a big part. So there's an exercise that I do, and it's basically I take two extreme ideas, complete opposite from each other. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, I say, well, should I become a serial killer, a heroin junkie, mistreat everybody, and then feel how that feels? Obviously, that doesn't feel good. And then take the opposite. Should I start helping people, be nice to people, help the old lady across the street, things like that, and then feel how that feels? And then what that does, for me, I'm a very stomach person, so my feelings, come from my stomach. And when I'm walking down an area that I shouldn't be in, I get this sharp pain.
It
almost feels like, it feels like I ate something bad. Mm-hmm. And then I realize that, no, it's not something that I ate, but it's just a bad energy. And then I kind of turn for a second to test it, and it goes away. And then,
so it's not a sushi. It wasn't the sushi.
No, it wasn't the sushi. But,
no, I'm the same way. I'm a very stomach person too. Sometimes I hate it because it is very uncomfortable. But people have that feeling, that gut feeling, or Yeah. Before you go, you also mentioned on your video about a battery example. I've never heard of that ever before. Can you just share that with the listeners real quick?
Okay. When I went to East City 2009, James, I had a flashlight and the battery died. And he took the 2 double D batteries and he said, hey, let me try to recharge them. So he puts them in his hand. And he just sits there with them for 5 minutes, and I'm looking at him, and he's just like, we're sky watching, and he sits there with it, and then he takes the battery and puts them back in my flashlight, and my flashlight turns on. Now, the power of the battery didn't last several weeks later. It just lasted that night. But the point is, it worked, and I tried it myself then, because I had a razor and the battery inside the razor died. So I tried it and I was like, okay, let me see what happens, and it worked. It worked enough for me to do that one shave, and wow. I was just blown away when I told my other friend's son. I said, son, I was able to do something after, I was able to do that. He's like, yeah, I do it too. That's no big deal. And I was like, really?
So I never heard of that. Maybe we're the only ones out there that are totally clueless about this, but I've never heard about it.
Yeah, well, at the same time, though,
I'm trying it.
At the same time, I've tried it with things like cell phone batteries, and it didn't work. It seemed like it only worked for me with regular batteries, but at the same time, one electrician said to me that the heat of your body can bring up the extra charge that's left in it. So, that's just something that I would have to like test it with a battery that it's completely 100% drained, and then test it to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only bringing that up because, again, for me personally, is I want to know. I don't want to believe like there's somebody who does a radio show called Mel Farragas, and that's always the saying. I don't want to believe. I want to know. So because when you believe, you can find yourself going down the wrong path without even knowing, because you're just believing. It's an external thing instead of an internal thing. Knowing is internal.
I see. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the very example is not quite paranormal, but it's interesting still to mention. So if you anybody out there ever needs a quick, battery rescue for anything, you can try that. I got one more question. When you're in Japan, how is the audience over there? How is the public? Do they talk about awakening, ascension, starseeds, indigo crystal children, all this stuff?
It's I would say it's exactly the same as America, in the sense that it's with just the average person, you don't really talk about that. It's not out in the open as much. But at the same time, like in America, the UFO shows are becoming very popular. That they have here.
So they have UFO events and.
Yeah, and there's definitely a growing group, just the same as America. It's not like out in the public where you'll go to an office and everybody's talking about those things. No, it's more like the same as in America. You get your little cliques, and that you talk with it. And there's a lot of events that happen here too. The same as in America, because they're brought over. A lot of them are brought over from America, and there's a lot of guys that I would call are just like masters or close to it.
Okay.
There's one guy in particular. His name is Khan, and just being around his energy is so strong. Like, even for my wife, who's not into this at all, she's like, wow, I sense his energy. And she's not, like I said, she's not into this at all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So they're out there still. It's about the same amount of people, percentage.
They're not as open. Like, for example, when you talk to people from, like you would know, people from Mexico. If I say I've talked to strangers. Like when I was in, where was I? I was in Oregon. I was in Portland, and I was talking to this Mexican guy. Was asking me some questions about, I think directions or something like that, and because he was waiting for somebody to pick him up, and then he was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to a UFO conference," and he just started telling me about his experience.
Oh.
Now, what I find with the Latin American, and I'm not trying to like pick one person on, but what I've noticed with the Latin American culture, they tend to be more open. Not everybody, but they tend to be more open about these things.
It's interesting. I've known. I read an article from a psychic who's been worldwide known, and I cannot remember his name, but I read this article, and he said that Australia is another country where they're very spiritually open. I don't know why. That's just how it is. Australians were anywhere you went, like they're open about psychics, they're open about angels, they're just, that's why a lot of people in the metaphysical go to Australia, because they're very, very welcome over there. So I don't know. If it could be the culture, it could be the grid. Who knows? I don't know. I'll do more research on that. But it's interesting. I grew up listening about all this stuff since I was a little girl.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
So, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Ramon, where can our listeners contact you or buy your book?
They can find the book on Amazon. They just put in Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. And also, you can go to the website. My website is www.the TH at the end, 100thmonkeyradio.com. And you can find me on Facebook. You can just put in Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, or you can put in the 100th Monkey Radio. You can find me that way. Or send me a telepathic, no.
Message.
Still working on that one.
Nickname.
That one doesn't always work. So.
If you were to choose one power to have, what would you choose?
Oh, wow. I would say telepathy.
Really? So that you don't have to waste. Yeah.
Well, language is
very
not
outdated.
that great for communication.
No.
Yeah, because I say something to you and I mean it one way, and then you take it a whole different way.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. Like in communications, is people don't understand each other, even though they're using the exact same words. Because if you think about one word, that word has so many different meanings. If you look at the dictionary form of it, it's consistently changing the meaning of the word. I mean, think about a word like a really terrible word like faggot. It's so highly offensive now, but that means a person who picks up sticks and woods.
Mm-hmm.
A woodsman. That's where the word faggot comes from. And a fag is the sticks for when you make a fire. Now, how did that get transferred to what it means today?
Nobody can ever dare to say that at all anywhere, because it's big trouble.
Well, in England, it has a different meaning. It means a cigarette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can I have a fag? It means a cigarette.
Interesting.
And the worst term is that they use it. They say, "Oh, I can kill a fag." It means they really want to smoke a cigarette. But
which is totally different. Americans say, "How dare you?" Oh. Wow, that's interesting. And the theory of telepathy says that people are able to not only transmit a message, but the emotion with it. So there's no confusion.
Yeah, which is so important,
Yeah, we're totally outdated. Our language, people are texting thinking they're so cool. And still, when you're texting, you don't even know.
Texting's even worse than
it's
talking.
Terrible. Yeah, you just you don't see body language, nothing. And yeah, this is how people are communicating nowadays.
Yeah,
most of the
texting
time.
is even more disconnected than just talking, because
Terrible.
like you said, there's no language. You can't sense the emotional energy behind the voice.
Well, I'm willing to practice telepathy with you from Austin, Texas, all the way to Japan. And maybe we should start a blog or something. That would be a really cool experiment.
Yeah, maybe we can take turns and pick like a card or something, and then come back the next day and see.
Well, I just got my Reiki certification. I'm a practitioner now. I'm so happy. And we did learn about distant healing. And we have tried that. We have experimented with that, and it's amazing because people that have tried that on, they actually reported to feeling the warmth and the heat and the comfort.
Yeah.
And they feel better afterwards. So what is that? They had no reason to lie to me, So it is real. We all are energy. Anything is possible. That's my belief. Well, that's my knowing. Sorry. That's my knowing. I'll replace that.
Here's a funny thing. The average Japanese person that's not into any of this doesn't know what that is.
What?
Yeah, when I say that to Americans,
I'm in shock. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. That's a very occult kind of thing that's very not hidden, because you can find it if you want to find it, but it's very underneath. It's not something like, I thought the same thing too. It's like, oh, I'll come here, I'll find a Reiki in every corner. Like, no.
That's
I've never
interesting.
seen.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea.
It's huge in America. It's very underground here.
So it's like Hispanics talking about dar una limpiada con hierbas, you know, like cleaning, like cleansing yourself with sage or something. Like, I don't know, like, I know not everybody really talks about that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow. Maybe I gotta go to Japan. Start a movement. I love it. I absolutely love it. I was treated first with Reiki a long time ago, and I fell in love with it, and then that's what made me curious, and I learned that now I can do it to others, and it's awesome. I mean, nobody knows about it. Do your research, and if you get the opportunity to experience that, go ahead and do it, because it's nothing but positive, beautiful bliss, and we all are capable of doing it. So there you go. Ramon, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. It was lots of fun. It was a very easy conversation.
I know. I don't get to really have fun. It's actually kind of nice not having the voice sometimes, because I get to talk. I do. I mean, Marfa Man, you call him earlier Mothman. He said, "Tell Mothman." Poor thing. Everybody gets.
Mothman?
No, it's Marfa Man.
Oh, I thought you were saying Mothman. Whoops, sorry.
Everybody, that's kind of cool though. I like it. I'm gonna start calling him Mothman now.
I found it weird myself, like Mothman. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, again, thank you so much. And I've learned, the biggest mistake someone can make is giving up. So don't give up. Everyone out there, keep going. Follow your heart, and buy Ramon's book on Amazon.com. Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. Thank you so much, Ramon. Have a lovely day. Beautiful Japan. Maybe someday I'll go visit.
You have a lovely night. Yeah, let me know if you do come. Or if you decide to teleport.
I'd probably do that instead. I'm going to start practicing on that.
That's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Just let me know before you come, because make sure I'm dressed.
Good deal. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right. Buenas noches.
También tú. Bye. Well, there you have it, everyone. We are running out of time, and it just had a lovely conversation with Mr. Ramon Almonte and all this spiritual talk, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you're curious about his book, go ahead, go to Amazon.com. His book is called Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, and it's about self-empowerment. If you need a little boost in your life, a little bit of help to get you through something, maybe this is the book you need right now. That's what I do sometimes. I go and read a good book, and I feel a lot better. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone who listened tonight. And please remember, be skeptical, but be open-minded too. And we are no experts, just big paranormal fans. And together, let's continue the search for answers. Good night, everyone.
Oh yeah, that's it for tonight. The Veranormal Show. Little Midge, Marfa Man, Vera Martinez, we're